get some things. Again, for the record, so to speak, and we are recording this, and so everybody should know that it goes public, it goes out through EMS World, as well as getting out there on the net on YouTube. And this is a gathering of the jurisdictional medical directors of the 911 systems for some of our largest cities, most of the major cities, 50 or 60 of them across the US, and their friends from various organizations and counterparts in Europa, and I could go on, okay? So anyways, glad to have you all here today, and I'm sure we'll have quite a nice gathering showing up in just a little while. So while we're waiting for them, Sandy, do you have any reports to come on ACEP and GAM? I'm probably gonna go to you next.
Just a quick thing, ACEP is coming out with a statement regarding the Ukraine later today. I know you're going to be covering some of that. The second thing, I'm going to put it in the chat. We're doing our next coffee hour. This is a sort of a wellness thing. You can come on as yourself, or you can come on as anonymously and just chat. It'll be March 11th. I'll put the stuff in the chat box.
Okay. Hey, listen, is tea acceptable on those hours that you have?
Tea is acceptable. Also, any other drink that might not be
Okay.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly right. So that's good. I must have turned the light bulb off here, something like this. No, I guess it died. So I had a lamp here that was trying to give me some more light here. All right, well, good. And then, hey, GAM, anything to report out of U.S. Office of Emergency Medical Services there at DOT?
Sure. Just a few quick things. I think as folks know, we continue to work with ASPR and our other federal colleagues on COVID-19 healthcare resilience working group. And just two things I mentioned, we continue to hear from state and local folks on medication shortages, as well as ambulance manufacturer delays. So certainly be interested in any feedback from folks online, just confirming that or denying it or providing any input. We're happy to pass that up the chain. Please, Dr. Pepe, if you have any.
So right away, one person who really keeps tab on this pretty well, there's others on the line as well, but is Dr. Augustine. Jim Augustine's really terrific, and I think he'll know how to help you out or point you in the right directions with different people. And by the way, Jim, would you be able to help them with the issue about the ambulance shortages or delays in getting ambulances? Are you hearing anything about that from your contacts? Oh, maybe I lost him. Dr. Augustine?
Yes, sir. Yes, we're having problems with availability of medicines, but then ambulances, engines, and all of our other frontline vehicles.
Right. If you can give some specifics or feedback up to GAM, that would be fantastic then. And anybody else who's on the phone today, right? Yeah.
GAM, happy to help.
Right, and thank you, Dr. Augustine. And I know one of our staff, Dave Bryson, is on some regular calls with you as well. So we appreciate all the information you've been passing on. And certainly, if folks have any other feedback to pass on, particularly impact on your operations and patient care, that's always appreciated. Then lastly, I don't know if I mentioned this on the last call, but on January 27th, Secretary Buttigieg, Secretary of Transportation, released the National Roadway Safety Strategy. If you just Google National Roadway Safety Strategy, you'll come to the DOT's website. And the significance, really the significance of the National Roadway Safety Strategy is that the Department of Transportation, our goal is to eliminate roadway fatalities and serious injuries, which is a very ambitious goal, I'm sure, as you can imagine. If I can do a quick screen share, if that's okay, Dr. Pepe, I can maybe take 2 minutes.
Julian, do you handle that? And while we're waiting for the screen share up, I was just saying that it's interesting. Clayton telling us that out there in California, they can't get vehicles from GM or Dodge, and still it's limited from Ford as well. And I'm hearing the same thing in Pennsylvania. I think, Doug, you're finding the same thing as well, or just pockets in certain areas?
Yeah, that's that's correct. I've heard of lots of folks having difficulty ordering or long delays on vehicles, but on the medications, it seems to be in pockets of areas. Some, I would say probably most are feeling unaffected, but there are pockets where they are experiencing some shortages of medication.
Okay, good. Hey, before I go on, how are you doing, Mick? How are you doing for time today? And how about you? How are you doing for time? Can you stay on for a while?
Stay on, no problem, Paul.
Okay, good. And Stefan, how long? Can you stay on for a while?
Yes. No
All right,
problem.
excellent. Because I want to have you guys comment about the situation for you guys and what's going on sociologically, let alone, professionally. Okay. So, alrighty, go ahead and want to show that slide now, or is it up yet?
Yeah, let me see. And folks,
Coming up there. Yep, go ahead.
All right, so I'll run through this fairly quickly, and you can certainly go to the NRSS website to learn more. So as Secretary Buttigieg has said when he released the strategy at the end of January, 0 is the only acceptable number of deaths on our highways, roads, and streets. So the department-wide, we support all efforts to achieve 0. So it's not just NHTSA, but also our other operating modes in our Secretary's office. We're adopting the safe system approach, and we've identified some priority actions within the National Roadway Safety Strategy. And the NRSS, as we're calling it, leverages new funding and policies available under the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. And the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law is the largest transportation law in US history. So safe system, our principles: deaths and serious injuries are unacceptable. Humans make mistakes. Humans are vulnerable. Responsibility is shared between all partners. Safety must be proactive, and redundancy is critical. And I just reemphasizing that if our goal is to eliminate fatal and serious injuries on the nation's roadways, but we can't reach this goal acting alone. It requires partnerships at all levels of society and government. Again, I'm moving fairly quickly here, just in the interest of time. That's the website for the NRSS, transportation.gov/NRSS. So just some brief overview of the role of post-crash care in the safe system approach and the NRSS. Between 2011 and 2020, over 370,000 people died in transportation incidents in the United States, and more than 94% of them died on our roads. Again, our goal, we are striving for 0 roadway fatalities. And this is a diagram that shows a broad overview of the safe system approach, which the strategy goes into depth on. The core objectives, the 5 core objectives in that strategy are safer people, safer roads, safer vehicles, safer speeds, and post-crash care. We know that improving emergency trauma care saves lives. According to the fatality analysis reporting system, or FARS at NHTSA, 40% of our fatalities were alive when first responders came on the scene, but then later died. So the department has a new focus on post-crash care under the NRSS. And 4 actions that we'll be working on in the very near term are an outreach plan for EMS on-scene safety and traffic incident training. We'll be working with our partners at the Federal Highway Administration on traffic incident management training. And we'll be expanding the use of and support for the National EMS Information System, or NEMSIS, as well as looking at ways to improve the delivery of EMS throughout the nation. And we'll be working with our Federal Interagency Committee on EMS and the National EMS Advisory Council on that piece of it. By the way, the NEMSAC will be meeting tomorrow, and you can register online if you're interested in attending. Just another highlight of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, again, the largest transportation bill in US history, and highlighted within the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, Congress has recognized NEMSIS as a core highway safety database. So data and EMS data was a focus under the bipartisan infrastructure law. So I hope I think I might have gone over 2 minutes, but happy to entertain any questions.
Anybody have any questions for him? I think we all share your goals.
Yeah. Well, I put something on the chat, and that is, I didn't hear anything that you said, Damnu, about radar controlled cars. I know that they are safer. They keep you at it. If you set it up so that you're using it when you drive, you're much less likely to hit anything or go too fast.
Yeah, so I'm not an expert on automated vehicles. I can certainly refer you to some resources and the current policy statements by NHTSA on that. Yeah, my focus is on the post-crash care section, but in the entire safe system approach, a key here is collaboration. So I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir about the need to improve access to trauma and emergency care, but also to think about prevention issues as well. NEMSIS presents a big opportunity for improving the entire community's understanding of serious injury. But certainly interested in hearing more. And maybe my previous boss, Dr. Kramer, might have some thoughts as well.
Well, just a quick follow-up question. Thank you. Arlene, are you talking about the driver assist capabilities in terms of maintaining your lane and starting and stop automatic braking and things like that?
Yeah, I have an old car, 2012, and it had that technology when I bought it, and it's only gotten better. And I can tell you, it really improves the quality of the driving, used appropriately. And so just like we mandated that there be seatbelts in cars, right? There should be a real thought that cars should be mandated to have radar controlled driving.
Those are very much addressed in the NRSS. They're categorized under safer vehicles as opposed to post-crash care, but yep, no question, those are going to make a significant impact.
Yeah, right. Ounce of prevention, right?
Yeah, or if you're in Europe, it's more done in grams and milliliter stuff. All right, so speaking of which, so Nick is asking us about the Volvos being illegal in Texas, right? And CJ, can you explain that a little bit so he understands? Are you there, CJ?
Joe, Teslas and Volvos can't be illegal in Texas. Come on, give me a break. They can't be.
They certainly are not illegal. My colleague, Dr. Gooley, has a Tesla, and I used to have a Volvo. But in the spirit of all things Texas, there was a big push by a lot of non-medical folks in the state to try to get everyone to say we had, and I'm not kidding, to try to say this is bacterial pneumonia instead of COVID. So it's just the spirit, Mick, it's just the spirit of Texas where, big trucks and not letting medicine or facts affect any of our processes here in Texas.
That's all it is. Yeah, actually, if it is illegal, I bought a Volvo for my kids' wedding present, so I better not be illegal, right? No, but anyways, but it is a joke, of course. And but thank you very much. I just thought it was kind of fun to keep up the spirit of things here. It's good to see you, CJ. I'll come back to you later. You got some time today?
Yep, I'm available. Thanks, Paul.
All right, good. Thanks. So let's hop over. I want to start off, and maybe before I go over to Kasia Hampton, who is going to give us a report primarily out of Poland and some perspectives on what's happening over in the Ukraine. There's been a couple of people who work there. We're going to have them comment on that, such as Sandy Schneider, and maybe since she has to get off, I may have her lead off with that. But also, we have people on the line with us like Cham Dallas, who actually had almost like a dozen missions over to Chernobyl after it happened. I'd like to hear some things, technical issues from him. But one person who I think will set the stage for us today first is is Alma Mateu, and who, like most of us, are very concerned and said, what do we do? How can we help? Alma, just want to go ahead and express that, and we'll maybe give you some answers here today. You'll see. Okay.
Well, yes, how can we help? Yeah, I don't really have a lot else to say. I haven't been to Ukraine before, but a lot of our residents, I'm sure residents everywhere and physicians everywhere are interested in knowing what we can do, if there's anything that we can do to help support the people out there, and especially the emergency medicine community out there. So
and part of the and part of that is, I mean, because he expressed that to me last night. I said, hey, we can help out there, and you want to make sure people are asking you for money that's going to the right place and all that. And then like the Society for Critical Care Medicine did set up a fund where you can help out and help with colleagues over there. You actually worked there, Sandy Schneider, right? At one time. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, just briefly, in 1996, I had the opportunity to go to Ukraine and work in a town that was called Dnipropetrovsk, now called Dnipro.
Wow.
It was the 10th anniversary of Chernobyl, which I didn't really actually realize when I signed up to go. I worked at the medical center. I was there literally 7 days a week, all day for 12 hours a day. With the medical students for just a 3-week period of time, but we became quite close, and the dean and I became quite close and kept up a correspondence for a period of time. We haven't. She hasn't answered my email. I think she probably is busy.
Yeah.
One of the things I did want to mention, first off, the medical care in 1996 was quite primitive. I have no idea whether it got better. The ICUs, they only had one ventilator for the medical center in 1996, one CT scanner, which had a big tarp over it because they didn't have electricity to run it. The patients in the ICU all had the old red rubbered endotracheal tubes, just breathing room air. And if they didn't breathe room air and they weren't lucky to get the one ventilator, they were in trouble. Now, things have probably improved quite a bit, but I don't think they're at the current standards. One thing I did want to mention, so Dnipropetrovsk was a town of about 2 million people. It was a closed city, which means it wasn't on any maps prior to Perestroika, and no one was allowed to leave the city unless they were a government official or got special dispensation, and no Westerners were obviously allowed in. In fact, my daughter was the first Western child and got interviewed by the newspaper. But what was interesting, as we were leaving, there were fires in Chernobyl, and the radiation levels were dramatically higher on that day that we were leaving, and became very high for several days after that. So that is, I had not actually sort of comprehended that those radiation levels that are in the ground can aerosolize with a fire. So it won't take very much to actually set off another radiation disaster over there. My heart goes out to those students that I trained. I trained them in trauma and mass casualty response. So I have a feeling that they're putting those knowledge to work, and it's just really very sad to know that the world has come to this.
Yeah. So just so you know, I'm going to have that particular issue about the radiation discussed in just a few minutes with Cham, Dr. Dallas. And also we'll probably have Eileen get on and talk about actually what happens with pathogens and other bugs as well, infectious diseases as well. I'm sorry, and then remind me, Paneet, where are you from? Gupta, that put something in the chat.
Oh, I'm one of the assistant medical directors for LA County Fire under Kazan.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I remember now. Let's go. Thank you.
Yeah,
All
but
right,
let me add one other thing. When I was there, there was a real conflict among the people who were Ukrainians, mostly the people in the Western Ukraine, and people who really aligned themselves with Russia. Most everyone spoke Russian. Very few people actually spoke Ukrainian where I was.
Yeah. And the other thing I was going to say is that you going back to your comments that that was like circa 1996. When I was in '89, I was in Moscow in their top trauma center, and they were sometimes bragging that they actually could autoclave about 80 or 90% of their surgical tools and not just put them in alcohol. And they had red rubber tubes coming out, as you said, there were breathing tubes for people who are unconscious. So that wasn't that far apart. But yes, things have come far along, much better, but still limited resources. They're actually some of the cities are fairly sophisticated in some parts and other parts not. But someone who will be able to relate a little bit more for us here is going to be Kasha, and I think you haven't introduced her before, but Kasha Hampton is not only been associated with our military, or has been associated with the military, but also has been living out of Landstuhl, but now she's a major ultrasound guru here as she's down in St. Louis working at the time for the time being, but she has Polish roots. And so she's like our contact on the ground with Poland. So I call her our Polish Eagle. And so you probably have some insights because you have contacts there. We know right now, Poland is the major site for refugees, and they don't like that term, evacuees coming out of the Ukraine. And maybe you can give us some perspectives on what you think the needs are and how we can help out. Okay.
Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. So day 6 of war right now, right? We have about 415,000 people that have already fled the war from Ukraine into Poland. They are expecting those numbers could go up as high as 4 million people. For the time being, majority of those folks have friends, family, friends of friends, or other private entities. So there isn't really like refugees camps at this point. They have all been absorbed into private homes. I would say a lot of people ask, what can we do? And do we need to go there to help? To Poland, at this moment, I'd say no. There isn't really, the majority of the people arriving are not combat casualties. They're just people displaced from their homes because of war. They truly need, shelter. They need food, just basic necessities, and those are being provided by their host families and friends.
Let me interrupt you for a second. Yeah, because and just keep in mind when these kinds of things have happened before, I want to know if it's a little different here. But for example, when one of the biggest problems, say at Fukushima, was not so much the radiation as much as you're moving elderly, vulnerable populations, right. And you may not know that. Pam, how many people died from it? You're the radiation specialist. What was your concern there? What happened?
Yeah, well, at Fukushima, there was 0 deaths from radiation. Probably not even any injuries. A lot of people died from earthquake and tsunami. But we predict, or at least we've published, that about 700 elderly Japanese probably died as direct result of hypothermia from being evacuated from uncontaminated areas. They just drew a circle around the reactor, but the plume went to the northwest and was only about 20% of that. The other 80% of the area that was evacuated, these elderly Japanese were taken and put into facilities, community facilities without heat. It was winter. Northern Japan actually has a significant winter. And we estimate 700 elderly Japanese died from the evacuation that occurred.
The other thing is that when we had, for example, similarly when we had Katrina, a lot of the people who got evacuated were really put a little bit in harm's way. I mean, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. But a lot of the problems that come up is they don't have their medications or their regular whatever. There's so much stuff that goes into that, and trying to do that. I remember getting the first phone call. I was there. They said, "Hey, you're the doctor. Can you help her?" And she says, "I need to get my chemotherapy." And I'm going, "Okay, what do you get?" And she goes, "So it's a clear one and a red one, So it's that kind of stuff. But anyway, so what I'm getting at is, do you have any sense yet about the people being evacuated? Are they young children and mom?
Mostly moms with children. Obviously, older men have been called to fight. So anybody, a male between 18 and 60 years of age, is not allowed to leave. And you speak about the medication. So actually, Polish government has sorted it out pretty quickly. They decided that anybody who has a passport, Ukrainian passport, and a stamp from the border, that qualifies them to receive free of charge medical care in Poland. And prescription medications, pretty much it's enough for them to show, look, this is the medication I'm taking. And actually they don't even need a doctor's prescription. There's a pharmaceutical prescription procedure that can be filled for life-saving medication. I'm not talking about, pain meds and stuff. I'm talking about like, blood pressure drugs, those kind of things. So that has been sorted out as well already.
And what's the resilience of Poland itself? How is it doing? I haven't kept up. How is it doing economically? How is it able to absorb and be able to handle this at least transiently?
I think for the time being, people are still a little bit on that high of like, I want to help. Right now, I'm not worried about anybody looking at the financial aspect of that. I would say in a few weeks, maybe a month or so down the road, things will start, people will start noticing that their bills have gone substantially up, that this is, an extra cost, and there's a need to give jobs and new life opportunities to those people. Because obviously, if you look at the Ukrainian cities, there's no way those people are going back over there anytime soon. It will be months, if not years, or maybe never. So, so that is definitely.
Next question is, everybody wants to know, how can I help out? So let's say I go to the website for Society of Critical Care Medicine, I send funds or a credit card or something, but are there more tangible things? And what about, do you have contacts with your friends who are working in, your friends who are working actually in Ukraine at this time? Do you have any?
Absolutely. So, like you said, donating to known societies, that's one thing, and that's a safe thing. However, it's also important to actually support people with specific needs, and that goes best through our personal contacts, physicians that we personally know, and EMS or EM physicians or anesthesiologists working over there. And I know a bunch of folks. I was actually on the phone with them like literally 2 minutes before we started this meeting. Then there is the All Ukrainian Resuscitation Council and Emergency Medicine. They are being formally supported by the European Society of Emergency Medicine, and on the USEM website, there's information how you can support them. But what do they need? So there's a lot of teams, and here it was mentioned, there's a lot of teams in the US that are willing to go, let's say, to Poland. To Poland right now, it's not needed. There is nothing for extra medical hands to do over there. In Ukraine, they say, look, we have the hands, we have the people, we have medics, but we don't have equipment. What kind of equipment? Well, that's mostly that typical, TCCC or TECC type hemorrhage controlled equipment that is basic PPE, but it's also ballistic protection equipment like ballistic vests and helmet, because obviously those cities are constantly being, under fire. And we already mentioned radiation, right? There's multiple nuclear power plants in Ukraine, and there's already artillery that drop bombs in the vicinity thereof. So they need the burning hazmat type suits, and those would be definitely things that they need. Medications, antibiotics, TXA, painkillers. Those are the basic needs.
Let's do this. Part of the thing is that well, how does one go? If I had to go do it this afternoon, what do I do? But before I do that, you're on the phone, you said, with your colleagues there. Give me an example of who you were talking to, what you were talking about.
So I was actually speaking with Igor Zbyszko, who is a physician, an emergency physician in Kiev. He is actually the current president of this organization, the All Ukrainian Resuscitation Council and Emergency Medicine. So that's exactly what he said: basic ballistic equipment, hemorrhage control equipment, antibiotics, TXA, painkillers, and and some of the CBRNE equipment, together with like basic PPE, gloves, sterile gloves, that kind of stuff. Both for adults and pediatric. Insulin is in high demand for children in Ukraine, and also antibiotics. They have a lot of issues because of the shelters and the dirt. A lot of issues with skin or urinary tract infections in young children. So that is definitely of a necessity for the time being.
It really sounds like everything just about in some respects, but I understand where we can look at some of the specifics. It's like a military war zone. And
Absolutely.
the one thing, so should we all go over there and help out? Or you don't know?
No, I would say at this point, no. And also the linguistic aspect is definitely plays a
Right.
major role. So I would, what I would prefer for my US colleagues to do is support us with, equipment and finances to purchase that equipment, because the issue is right now in Eastern Europe, there is no more supply left. Everything has been bought out and sent to Ukraine. So everybody is scrambling, in Western Europe or in the US or even in Australia, trying to get the supplies for Ukraine. So that is our biggest request.
So let's say this afternoon you said, hey, I have a whole bunch of TXA here, or I have a bunch of tourniquets here, or whatever it might be. Where are you going to go? You're going to go down to FedEx, and who do you address it to? Or is it going to be allowed to go through? All those kinds of things. So those are, questions I would have, unless you knew someone you can mail it to them.
Absolutely. And I think the best way would be, to mail it to the Polish contacts that we have on the ground, because that's a safe place of delivery for all those goods and can be materialized through the regular shipping channels as opposed to Ukraine. But right now, when it comes to delivering things to Kiev, it can't go all the way to Kiev because Kiev is surrounded. But we are working on semi-military ways of delivering goods to those hospitals. Mm-hmm.
Right. So let me, so if you don't mind, would you mind giving your email where people who want to do something?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'll put it in there. I will put it in the chat, and yes.
I may have more questions, and I have to give Kasia special thanks because if you don't know her, she's like me. She's a night owl, right? And worked overnight, and she's still awake, talking to her friends over there, and really appreciate your energy, and you're fantastic. Yeah. So thank you so much for you. That's
right. Thank you.
Paul, can I make a quick comment?
No.
Absolutely.
No, but yes, and I'm going to go on in a few minutes here to Cham and Eileen, but I'm also
Actually happy about that.
But before I go on to Peter, I just want to give the heads up to Mick and Stefan, because I'm going to call them in and see their perspectives, on what's going on. That's all. Thanks, Kasia. That's great. But please stay on with us because we may have more questions for you from other people. But I want to get through some presentations first. So can someone tell me or just send me in the chat who you are? It says MDI or something like that. I don't know. It's a small M. It's a large M, small DI. So I don't know who it is. Peter, go ahead. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for MDI to give me a heads up.
Thanks, Paul. Kasia, thank you so much for the presentation. As a father of a diabetic, it's heartbreaking to hear that these kids may not have insulin and so forth. So we're in the process, my family and I, of doing a fundraiser. But it sounds to me like just sending the money over to somebody there would be the best thing to do. Does that sound like the right thing? Or, I mean, it's hard to send insulin, but if we send money to somebody there,
I would be happy to work with you on this, and that we can find the most optimal. Right now, again, it's from an hour to an hour. This is a very volatile, dynamic situation, and I'm happy to help you all and work with people individually on things that you want to do, and that we can materialize this. Because again, it's a very difficult situation. What was true an hour ago might not be true within the next 2 hours. So I'd love to.
Even if you said your friends, hey, Cham, can you put yourself maybe on mute? I think there's background noise there.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, and by the way, so if you send money, to somebody, but they can't buy it, part of it is getting it too. So we need to know where would be the best resource. So the point is, we're going to say that we could try this today. It may not work. We'll try to keep track of it, but at least we're trying from our end. And then what would happen also is that, this may change, and we'll try to let you know through our listserv about what you should do, or here, hey, we found a good source here, etc. So that would be helpful. Like I said, I think earlier I sent something to Amal, maybe you could put it in the chat, about from the Society of Critical Care Medicine, where they had a place where you could provide funds, and they are well connected with the ICU people there as well. So, all right.
I could say one more thing about, I see that Paneet is saying here about, I wouldn't worry about this expedition just showing up. So actually there's one place where humanitarian expedition can make a difference at this point. This is right at the border crossing. There is people on the Ukrainian side who spend days sometimes with no access to like basic facilities in the cold. So this is where we can actually make a difference, provide, tents, heat, like portable toilets, food and water. And that's where those humanitarian support teams could actually make a huge difference, but that's right across the border, not in Poland anymore.
Okay, and then I'll bring you back if there's other thoughts you have. I just want to start going through some of the other speakers as well, okay? And then let's start with Cham. So you heard everybody worried about, when there's a fire, you could stay. Oh, actually, Cham, before I go to that, let me just see. I want to get a perspective from Germany and Berlin. Stefan, tell me, how's this affecting you guys sociologically, economically, and whatever else? Tell us about your country and what your feeling is there and what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you very much. So first of all, I want to copy all what Kasia just told us. That's the same information I get from Poland and the Ukraine. What's the situation in Germany? The last few days, we are between, so I recognize in between paralysis of all people on the one side and starting there some kind of operational hectic under the professionals. There are some clinicians, they want to start mass casualty points at the airport immediately. And so we are at the moment, we are a lot to do about to get communication structures about the event. So that's one of the first things we need to be prepared. In the medical community, we have I think a lot of people who are thinking about what will be coming on. Especially the nuclear things. I think the very most important thing from my perspective is to deal with the fear and the anxiety what could be a part of even the war. And it's not very realistic from my point of perspective that we have 100,000 green lightning zombies are coming from the east into Berlin. It's much more to be prepared about to deal with all the fear. And there's even for me, I was a young guy during the Chernobyl catastrophic, but one part of the war and the threat is also the fear under the people. So we try to care about this, and the psychological effect is one of this. We are well prepared for some things, but I think that's the special point. We have to prepare new and have to look in the old textbooks, and there are very rare specialists and who can really deal with this. And to the question, what can help the international community? I think one of the most very important things is to communicate about threats, about situations. And that's the reason I'm very happy to have you also in this round, and we talk about this.
Yeah. So do you have a sense, or let's start with you, but then maybe tell me a little bit, because there's so many political and various, philosophies, just like we're enduring here in the United States. But overall, is there a sense of a unity with the United States and France and UK and all this, or do you sense that there's tension about that there?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Okay, so the question is do you personally, or the people, then later maybe others in the country of Germany, do you have a sense of unity, feeling togetherness with the other NATO countries and the United States in particular, in the UK, et cetera? How is that feeling?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's an never seen before community for a lot of access. It's the European perspective, I think, which gets very, very strong. it's also for Germany as in special. We are so I'm 53 now, and I grown up with the iron cord, yeah. And now today in Berlin, I live together with a lot of people from East Germany, yeah. And I think in this point, nowadays it's also to stay together to the people from the Ukraine, even to the people of Russia, because there's a clear communication in some points. It's not the people of Russia, it's Putin, not the people of Russia, and that's one hope that we have all together. To get at the end stronger in Europe in economic perspective, but perhaps also in military perspective. Then I'm not a specialist for this.
Okay, RJ Fresco, you made a nice remark. Congratulations to Deutschland for the recent actions regarding Ukraine. What were you referring to?
The release of their missile technology, the Stingers and the Javelins, something that Germany had to change their law to do. It's very impressive, and it's good to see them join the fight.
And then the sacrifices about the supply lines and all that kind of thing that they were making as well, right, Stefan? So everybody feels you're seeing really a good sense of unity. Then that's one good thing that's come out of this. It's just a shame, it really is. Okay. Well, then as we're over in Europe, let's take it a little further away, anyways. But still, people who have been hurt by the Russians this past couple of years are here on the call with us today. Mick Malloy in Dublin. Tell us a little bit about what your concerns are, or what's the mood in Ireland right now? For example, are you feeling unity with the rest of the EU, et cetera? And how's that? What's the sense sociologically there? Mick, were you there? I don't know if you could switch over. Probably caught him off guard.
Hey, Paul, I'm going to have to leave in a few minutes. We're doing a subway bombing training here at the Center for Domestic Preparedness, and
okay, got it. Okay.
I'm going to have a lot of people here any minute now.
Okay, good. Well, then, if you don't mind, Mick, let me hold off and then get the report from Cham. That's what I was asking before, Cham, how long you can stand. So you want to reflect on some of these things that you heard about. You heard that everybody is concerned about the radiation issues and so on. And so what's your perspective? And again, your background is that you're a specialist in this area for millennia, right? But you made 12 missions or so, I think, to Chernobyl after it happened. What years were these?
Yeah, I did 12 expeditions into the radioactively contaminated areas, the high level areas, between 1989 and 1999, and then 6 expeditions to Fukushima. In those times. I was there, Sandra, when you were on the 10th anniversary. I had a CNN filming team with me, and I was there, and we went out into the areas where the radiation was mobilized. It's not permanent once the radiation gets in the ground, but when there are fires, that radiation, which has only gone down a short distance into the soil, can be remobilized. And we were doing the measurements there on that 10th anniversary. And that is feasible again in these areas if they stir it up and they get some kind of military activity. Those radiation levels can be mobilized again. There's a high degree of radioactivity still in the containment dome. They have a big containment vessel they built over the Chernobyl accident to the tune of $1.5 billion. And hopefully that will contain everything. But in the soils and in the distributed areas, which is widespread, that could be mobilized again if they have extended military activity, like fire, like happened on that 10th anniversary when Sandra and I were there.
So the issues are not so much the gamma particles, but alpha particles under those circumstances.
Well, I'd be worried about the gamma too. Yeah.
Okay, why?
The problem with the alpha is when you inhale them and ingest them.
Right. That's what I was getting at.
Problem because they're hard to detect. Okay. They're very hard to detect. Gamma, you can detect from a distance. But yeah, they're usually in mixtures. At Chernobyl, cesium-137 was the main radionuclide. Usually it's gamma, beta, alpha mixtures, and real nasty cocktail of radionuclides. And, and it's,
can they also be aerosolized? Because I usually think of alphas being the ones that are out aerosolized. That's what I was getting at. But
yes,
well,
you're right.
okay.
They can be aerosolized, and they are a danger if you inhale them or ingest them.
Yeah.
But they're really playing with fire with this because it's still it's Chernobyl was 100 times as much radioactivity as Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined, and it was because it was a nuclear reactor fire, very efficient way of distributing these, and a lot of it is still there in the exclusion zone and also in Belarus and Russia, and it's there's still patches all over the place that could be remobilized, not just with if they hit the nuclear reactor, but if they start fires in the surrounding areas.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me ask you this. First of all, I'm going to ask, what is our concern over here? Are there threats? I mean, low percentage threats here, and then push it back in. What's the threats in Europe, for example, with what you think? What are the possibilities? Worst case scenario or whatever. Okay. Beyond,
I'd like
someone dropping a bomb, right? So.
Yeah, well, I'd like to point out that right now the Russians have increased their threat level.
Yes.
We have 5 DEFCON levels, and it's hard to say. Let's say they have 4, and they're at the one next to the bad boy. They're at the one right above. We don't know where ours is. But this kind of heightened tension is very dangerous. There's 6,000 nuclear weapons in the Russian and American arsenals, and many of them ready to go. And being on a hair trigger like this is just dangerous in itself. We haven't seen this level of that kind of tension since the Cuban Missile Crisis. I personally think we're going to come through it okay, but it's just it's very dangerous.
So short of nukes, what about the radiation issues? Are there any threats to us in the United States or things we need to pay attention to? I mean, can they smuggle it out and get dirty bombs to us, or is that just hard to do? Or is it,
I would 6 months ago, I would have said that's not a major concern. However, that's all changed. The calculus has all changed. The Center for Domestic Preparedness, where I'm at, is we're doing a dirty bomb exercise next month, national dirty bomb exercise, which we haven't done in 10 years. Why is that? Because go ahead.
But you were planning this long before this whole thing came up, correct?
That's correct, but it's taken on a new level of importance now.
Okay.
And we're preparing for the eventuality of social unrest in the major cities. We're already seeing some of that here, but if tensions and things start to boil over, we're making the assumption in FEMA that this will increase and could reflect on the way we do things here. Like I said, we're in just a little while, we're doing a subway bombing exercise here with a lot of firefighters, police, and EMS people. Why is that? Because we're considering that threat level has increased.
Now, how about in Europe? Are there any immediate or maybe an intermediate term concerns for them? With what we know is going on now, short of nukes, of course. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think the actual radiation hazard when Chernobyl was happening, the hazard level for Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia was quite high. The hazard level, as we discovered monitoring populations in Western Europe over the next 30 years, was quite low. And that was with the full release of the reactor occurring at the time.
Okay.
I was surprised that there wasn't more health effects than there were. So because with that high level of release, there was very low effect in Western Europe, I'm considering that level of threat is still low for them.
Does it have to do with prevailing winds or the way the globe turns or something like that, that things go kind of, west to east?
It's more to do with the amount of particles that you can get in the air.
Okay.
It's just hard to get in the air that would get that far that would cause a health effect.
All right. Well, this has been great. I want to open up for any questions for you. Dr. Dallas has been doing this for a long time. He's one of the founders of the.
Scenario.
Say again. What was that?
Ukraine are not going.
Oh yeah, you're kind of breaking up right now, Cham. I'm sorry.
About that.
We lost you for a second, Cham. I think you're back again. What
Yeah.
was the last thing you were saying?
Yeah, just when I was waxing eloquent. So because the radiation effects in Western Europe from the 100 times as much radiation as Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined was very low, we think it's going to be even less of a risk now, even if it's mobilized. Still a high risk in Ukraine, though.
Yeah. Okay.
But not in Western Europe.
All right. Got it. Yeah. Thanks for just for everybody else's purposes. Cham is based at the University of Georgia's professor of public health. They're also professor of emergency medicine at the Medical College of Georgia in Augusta. And he's one of the co-founders of one of the original, I think, original 6 or whatever it was, founders of the National Disaster Life Support family of courses, ADLS, BDLS, and all that. And you did obviously all the work in the radiation area. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, well, stay on as long as you can because it's
Yeah.
always there. I just want to get that out. Does anybody have any direct questions for him or like to ask him any questions or know a little bit more about it? Or we could set up more formal stuff in the future. But I think for this purpose now, anybody have any questions? Did I cover everything you'd like to know? Anything
Just
else?
one question for the Ukrainian providers. How high do you think that threat is?
Did you hear that, Cham?
My connection.
Yeah, he's trying to be there. So she was asking for the people, actually the providers of medical care in Ukraine. Are you hearing this? I think he's still froze again. So if you're back, are you back again, Cham? That's rough, too bad. Well, anyways, if I do see him come back in, then we'll ask him again. So unfortunately, we'll try to get that question in again. Okay.
Paul, did you see my question in the
No,
chat?
Cham, how large is the exclusion zone? So when you say exclusion zone, I mean areas that probably won't hit, or is that what it means?
It's the area downwind from Chernobyl. I watched the series like everyone else.
Yes,
I want to say it was 250 square miles. It's a big area.
Yeah.
But I'd like to know officially what they think.
Yeah. Let's see, I don't see that he's come back, but we'll try to catch on that later on. I would say that there's moderate risk there. Kasha, to answer the question for him, just taking a guess, just logically, that's all.
Sorry, my connection went bad there for a minute.
Hey, so Kasha, our friend from Poland was asking about her friends in Ukraine. What's the risk to them? How is the risk for the providers, healthcare providers there?
If we have some wildfires.
Shame. But I think I answered the question for him before, I think, because of what he's saying.
37 has a 30-year half-life, and half of it's gone now, but there's still a bunch of it left. And so it is a significant risk for people in Ukraine if we get wildfires.
Yeah. RJ was just talking about the exclusion zone being like 250 square miles or something like that. Is it kilometers or square miles? I don't know what it is. So, yeah. So, wow.
Well, there's hot spots all over the place, though, well beyond the exclusion zone. There's still hot spots all over.
And what were they from? What were they from?
Chernobyl. From Chernobyl.
From the original explosion. Yeah.
From the original explosion. Yeah.
All right. Now, to be fair, let me jump back over to Mick in Dublin, so in Ireland. So what's the reaction to everything there? What can you tell us, Mick?
Tell you about what's going on in Ukraine or life in Ireland?
Well, yeah, just in general, what's the mood in the country, and particularly with respect to Ukraine and what's happening? Do you guys feel, unified with the rest of the EU? Do you feel that we're far enough away that we're not too worried about it, or how's the politics of it, huh?
Well, the politics is significant now. The Russian ambassador has been in quite a few times with our foreign affairs minister, and there are discussions ongoing about whether they'd be asked to leave. The government has set up a number of emergency operations to help fly in aid to the Ukraine. They have removed the visa requirements for any Ukrainians who want to come to Ireland. And I think in the last week or two, there's been a couple of hundred who've managed to come. They haven't put any limits on the the numbers who can come, which is interesting. There are a number of medical providers here who are from Ukraine who've been trying to organize medical groups to go to help out in the hospitals over there, but that I think hasn't gone into an official grouping yet, or hasn't been recognized by the local health authorities here to help organize it. But definitely
are there any political backlash about opening the doors to anybody from Ukraine to come in? Is there at least currently the sense that we're here to be there for that, right?
There's no backlash on that at all. There has been no negative publicity about it. And partly because I think there were a lot of Irish people who had gone to Ukraine for surrogate children over the last 15 years. So the country has been in the news here for a long time. In fact, when the Russians went in first, there were quite a number of families over there. So that's why there was an evacuation effort from Ireland to Ukraine at that point to help those people get out.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, the mood is what's the word? Cautious at the moment. The government here are careful that they want to remain neutral in the sense of donating arms. So they're donating money not to be used for arms. So donating for medical supplies and for equipment, but not for munitions.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, speaking of going to Ukraine years ago, didn't you do that, Ray Fowler? Didn't you go to Odessa at one time?
Yes, I think I was following you around, Paul.
And what did you? And you liked the people? They were great. You were really well engaged with them. You were amazing. So
weren't we drinking beer in a Bulgarian forest at one moment?
Yeah, we'll get to that here. So that's good. So, anyways, Ray, I just thought you'd enjoy. I saw you on, Ray, so I want to make sure you thought you might want to say hi to Cham, since you had worked with him. So
Cham, I hope you're doing well. I spent the day with Ray Swinton yesterday, and we both send our regards.
Yeah.
The two cosmic rays. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
gamma rays.
The gamma rays. That's right. Yeah, gamma rays.
Cham, are you at that college that is the national football champion of the United States? I believe you are, aren't you?
That is correct. For the moment, the University of Georgia is number one.
Yeah,
we'll see how long we keep it. Yeah, we'll see how long we keep it.
Ray, I thought you were referring to Michigan there.
No, sorry.
Hey, let me drop back to. I want to be fair to Mick. I want to get back to him because he has other things to report. But I saw Ray, I didn't miss him. Go ahead, Mick.
Just going to ask a political question there. Why was that not called the World Championship of Colleges? It was the national championship. You seem to call all your other sports world champions.
Well, and I want you to know that I have this T-shirt that shows the state of Georgia, and on top it's the Atlanta Braves, the world champions of baseball. And on the bottom, the University of Georgia, the national champions of football. I'll loan it to you if you'd like to wear it.
You might have to put a few.
They want to know why in college football it's only national. Why isn't it world champions?
Well, it's world champs to us. They call football something else over in your part of the world.
Oh no, we call it football too.
All righty. So, let's. I'm trying to think if there's maybe we probably maybe.
The only other thing, Paul, I've got for you in report wise is pretty much all the restrictions went this week. The government are still advising people to wear masks on public transport and in healthcare surroundings, and that's causing us some difficulty because people are walking up to the hospital saying, "I don't have to wear a mask." We're saying, "No, you do in healthcare." "No, I don't," and it's just causing a little bit of angst. But we're still diagnosing COVID quite frequently in the hospital.
So that's throughout Ireland right now?
Yes, that's correct, Aileen.
Thank you.
So Aileen, this is a good segue. I'm sorry that we spent the whole thing on Ukraine, but it's obviously topical right now today, and I think it's worthwhile. I learned a lot of other stuff too today as well, and it's little. We're jumping around a little bit, but one thing is an infectious disease issue, and also the issues. There's two parts of this: what happens there immediately in the Ukraine, and also what happens with evacuees. So, Eileen, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with what we should be thinking about here with respect, especially with respect to, infectious disease issues?
Well, when it comes to infectious disease and war, those are always an intermixed issue, right? Because as you damage infrastructure, damage sewer systems, damage homes, et cetera, damage access to clean water and food, you're going to increase your infectious disease risk. And I put in the chat a link to an article about work that I was involved with back in around 2005, 2007 timeframe, because Ukraine has a very active amount of experience and knowledge with very dangerous pathogens that they store in certain locations, which if they're damaged, could cause untold consequences, right? Leakage of these pathogens. So there's that risk. There's the natural risks that happen because of the things we're talking about, right? Damaged infrastructure, water, nutrition, et cetera, that enhance. And so I think that we have to be very careful to stay on top of it from the get-go and do a lot of surveillance. And like Kasia has, and by the way, what a wonderful presentation you gave, Kasia. I was so impressed about what you're doing. And I'm so glad that you guys are on top of it. Almost 500,000 people already. That's just nuts. That's just such a huge number. And then if this thing becomes protracted, that becomes even harder to maintain what you're already doing though, right? You know, unless you find a way to integrate these people very rapidly into jobs and places and so forth in your society. Otherwise, there's problems there as well. Yeah.
So when we're in tropical, you're an expert on tropical medicine. So, you know, in tropical climates, this thing with the vectors is just really bad. Are there vectors that are there in the Ukraine area, or less of a problem there?
So remember, there's in different parts of the world, there are different diseases that are vectored by different things. One of the big vectors of things in Europe are ticks. There's a lot of tick-borne diseases, some of which are, you know, like Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever, right? I mean, that it's in the name, it's from that area, Crimean, right?
But at this time of year, is that much of a threat? Are they year-round, the ticks?
No, it's not. It's not a year-round thing, and everything depends on climate issues as well. There's no question, but you know, louse-borne things, rodent-borne transmissions. And again, if these things escape out of labs that are highly serious, and whether or not they're vector-borne, that's a problem.
Okay. Hey, CJ, just in case I lose you, you read an article in the Washington Post about how to help out. Can you tell us a little bit? Just give us a Reader's Digest version of that. If you're still there, CJ.
Yeah, sorry, I got a call from the chief right at the right time, right? So yeah, you know, I think Washington Post is a reasonable source. Some of the potentials to donate are directly to a feed people chef type of situation in Poland. So that's an option. There you can donate directly to the military. Again, I'm not advocating, I'm just saying what the Washington Post had in there. And then some of the big organizations like CARE. I thought, you know, as far as I know, it's one of the, and UNICEF is in there as well. Eileen, thank you. Some of the bigger organizations are in that Washington Post article, just kind of easy to click on, and all the links work. I just checked them. So it's a, you know, one source to kind of, you can choose your flavor, as it were.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to see if there was anything special we need to, that's the thing right now. Like, if I was asking, so where do I go? Yeah, you'd like to have some more definitive things that you know are going to work out and be directed to the right place. I think that's it. Everybody cares a lot right now, and so we'll see how long that lasts too, because this could go on. But it's a sad situation. All right. So hey, I guess while we're going around the horn here, I guess I might. Anybody else have any questions, by the way, for any of our panelists so far, as I'll call them, right? Or anything else to add to our conversation, because I'll pivot away and go into other areas. But this has been quite good, and all of you have been fantastic, really good information. So, and thank you, for all the information everybody's given. Anybody else have anything or hand raise or anything like that you want to let me know about? Okay, well, with that then, let me do this. I wanted to jump out. And Stein, can you tell me just real, since I got you on the phone, I'm going to ask you, how are things going with the website? Are you guys working that out yet? We're going to try to develop an all new Eagles website. So we're like modern day people as opposed to our current Neanderthal approach to things, right? Even a stone man can do it, right? No, stone. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry for the background noise. I'm out with the crew right now on the streets. Yes, we're working heavily on the website, revamping it, and I have seen a couple of mock-ups. And so we shortly, I would imagine within the next couple of weeks here, we should have the baseline redone website up there that we can start building upon. And so really excited because I think it'll have a lot more utility, a lot more user-friendly, something that's easily navigatable, and anybody could access that to see who we are, what we do, and get information off of it easier. And so I'll give you more updates on that.
So I haven't been in the middle of it, but Nick, you were having some problems. Were you getting, is that something from our end that you weren't able to get the recordings to put out with EMS World? Or Julian, is that something I addressed to you? I just saw some, email exchange going on there.
I'm not aware of any issues. I'm not made aware of any issues on the recording, so I'll be happy to address them if there are.
People should know, because I often say if they missed it, they want to look at it right away, but it takes hours to upload, right? Because it's an hour and a half. How long does it usually take to upload if you did it like right after this meeting?
So Zoom usually doesn't finish processing the recording for about 2 hours. And then it takes about an hour for me to process and upload it from that. If I'm able to get to it immediately, sometimes I have to run before the meeting and I don't actually get to it till the next day or so.
Okay, got it. But you're going to try your best to try to get it, loaded up as soon as possible. Or if there's another option for us, but we really we're dependent on you, and and we owe you so much. So thank you so much. Nick, does that help you? Have you been in? Can you explain a little bit more about any issues you've had from your end, Nick Miller? Because I tell you, a lot of times I want to go back and hear the conversation because I'm busy, doing the trade-offs, and it's really kind of fun to see what we all said and listen or refer it to other people, which is good. So thank you. So Nick, were you guys having issues getting it uploaded or downloaded or whatever it was? Nick Miller? Yes, Nick is maybe not.
Paul, I think.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, here he goes. Go ahead. There he is.
What was your question?
It was regarding the issue about getting the recordings out on the EMS World website. Was that some problem on our end, on your end? I was just seeing a cross chat. And
I talked to John. He didn't have an upload, but I think that's been resolved when I talked to him last. I'll double check after this.
You talked to whom?
John Bassett. He's the one who uploads them.
Oh, I see. Okay, Peter, what were we going to say, Peter? It sounds like you had an answer for me.
Yeah, no, I think that the issue is just that wherever John gets the video recordings from is how they upload it. So I'm not sure of the flow from Julian over to John up to the Eagles website, up to the EMS World website where they're housed.
Yeah, so no one's contacted me for access to the video, so I'm assuming they're downloading it from YouTube after I upload it to YouTube. So I'll put my email in the chat. Be happy to work directly with whoever to streamline whatever process we need to.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you can. I'll send you John's email on the chat. He's the one that directly uploads it. I talked to him yesterday, so I think I saw the email trail. It should be good now.
But still, just to make sure we are connected and you know who does this, and I wanted to make sure you understood the process that he has to do the Zoom recording. That's the whatever. That's the process. It converts as it's called, right? And it's awfully long, and then he has to. So if there are direct ways, before he uploads it, you guys can get the same MP4 or whatever it is. That would be fantastic. So I'm good. I want to make sure you guys are working together on that. So thank you for everybody for listening to the technical aspects of things here today. Okay, so let's see. I'll just sort of randomly go along to see. I'm just quickly seeing if there's anybody I hadn't talked to. Peter, can you tell us something about CJ Winkler? Can you tell us something about anything about CJ Winkler?
Absolutely. So I have to pull it up on my email here, but CJ, as many people know, has been inspirational to many of us for what he's done with whole blood. I can say personally that I can speak for Dr. Jim Roach, who is the medical director for Broward Sheriff. And I know Ken and I are very grateful. Charlie Coyle, who's our chief of EMS. All of the things we've done here with whole blood in Broward and Palm Beach counties have been directly because of CJ's work and his team. Last week or 2 weeks ago now, they had a conference where they invited a bunch of people to teach them how to do whole blood so that we can launch our program. And then I learned that CJ won an award for his work in whole blood. So I don't have the award up in front of me, but perhaps CJ can unmute himself. And I know he doesn't like the attention, but maybe talk about the award he received.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Peter, who I consider mentors. Yeah, so the Whole Blood Award is quite an honor. I'm not sure I really deserve it. I think of myself as a paramedic that became a doctor that just values research. And so I've had a lot of help in that. And one of the articles that really caught the attention of the research committee at University of Texas Health in San Antonio was one that you might have heard of. This guy, Paul Pepe, was on, and it was the AABB Thor Working Party recommendations.
Yeah.
And I don't know much. I didn't even know what an H index was until I won the award last week, and someone explained it to me. That's how everyone laughs, because I'm the only one that didn't know. But I like writing the papers. I like working on the research, whole blood or otherwise. And that paper has been viewed almost 3,000 times on PEC. And I think, Paul, you just wrote that paper just a few months ago, as I remember. So
the funny part about it is they put you down, they said you were the senior author. What are you, over 65? I didn't know. You look really good.
Yeah, I don't know if the authors just put me last and then decided to call me senior, but it truly was an honor to be involved. And just to put that paper out took a few years of work, maybe 2 or 3 years of work to get there. So I really appreciate, there are really some titans of blood research on that paper, not just Dr. Pepe, but many people. Yeah. So thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, there's a link. Thanks, Peter. Yeah.
Well, part of it, what we wanted to do is just at least point out, because regardless of the award or not, you're us, and we know how hard you work and how hard you've been working on this. And, in the education you've given us, by the way, from your experience has been invaluable. So we're glad you're recognized. And I just wanted, since you're on today, I said, let's at least we bring that up. That would be really cool.
If I had one thing, and thank you again. And if I had one thing to say, I certainly would have, hope that there's some type of military walking blood bank in Ukraine. I don't know if that's even possible, but I just thought about it the second there was a potential for invasion. We have been working on that in the civilian setting in San Antonio for a walking blood bank. We've got a grant and everything where if there were a complex coordinated attack of some kind, we have the potential for our brothers in arms donors that donate whole blood to run to our grocery stores, which are HEB in Texas, to run to our grocery store, and they would have blood donation sites set up, and that blood would just be used directly. That would not be run through the normal screening process, similar to what the military does. So I've been on my mind a little bit for Ukraine.
So one of the really important things with our whole blood programs in the pre-hospital setting is actually the source, okay, and all that. And you guys brilliantly came up with the Brothers in Arms program. Can you tell us a little bit of things that most of us have heard about it, but just in case you hadn't, just give us a quick nutshell of what the Brothers in Arms program is.
Yeah, so we got a grant from San Antonio Medical Foundation, and they basically allowed us to deploy a new service line of blood, which is whole blood. I know it's almost a little old, or maybe it feels old because I speak about it all the time, but whole blood wasn't a thing, remember, about 5 years ago. So we developed a service line of donors to donate whole blood. And what's special about these Brothers in Arms donors is that they have over 90% show rate when you call on them for blood. And because the whole blood program rolled out before the pandemic, we have leaned on those Brothers in Arms donors for platelets, for plasma, and red blood cells. So for surgeries, So we've been completely out like every other system in America of blood at times. And when that happens, we'll text these people and basically ask them to come in and donate. So to do surgeries. So that brothers in arms.
Yeah, so I think it's important to note that this isn't just like give blood. It's not like a donate blood thing. Part of it is you created a registry of people who had low titer, low titer whole blood, in terms of the, and so what you did was find a group of people, say, hey, you're really special. We don't have to go to universal donors. We could use you, and we really want to. Would that be okay? And so I think that was an important aspect of this whole thing. And then, what was your source originally? Was it military, because you had a lot of military people, or was it possibly public safety personnel? Right?
Yeah, we appealed to our public safety personnel, and they are a huge component. Myself included, sorry for the lack of humility, but yes, I happen to be low titer O positive whole blood. So when they call, I'll go donate blood as well. And, near universal donor. And so it's been helpful in the pandemic, but also we built a relationship with these brothers in arms donors in the sense that we have a yearly meeting for the patients that Whole Blood saves pre-hospital. We bring the donors into a big auditorium. We bring the people that we saved, and that has included quite a few folks. We have a lot of industrial oil accidents and so forth. And so we're talking, these people got blood hours before they got to a trauma center. So we also text the the brothers in arms people when we utilize their blood pre-hospital. So they really feel like a part of the team, and they just show up all the time. They're willing to do anything. It's been a great relationship.
I just want to know, I think that's really one of the real pivotal parts of what you've done and how you've got it accomplished. And just cannot thank you guys. What you may not know, though, CJ, you know a lot of stuff, but what you may not know is that David Miramontes has volunteered you to be on a session with us down in at First There, First Care during the Florida sessions, okay? During one of our Eagle Creek days, you're gonna run over with me and we're gonna talk about this, okay? Just want you to be prepared, so, all right?
Thank you. And there was a question from Stein, and I'll answer. We have these whole blood academies. Obviously, we wanted to have them twice a year for any EMS agency that wants to come. And basically, we want you to be mentally ready to do it. And we love it if you're pathologists, which are the pathologists and the trauma surgeons. We bring those to the Whole Blood Academy that make our Brothers in Arms program successful. So you get to meet them and talk to them, and your pathologists and trauma surgeons can ask pathology and trauma questions to those individual experts. And I've been asked quite a bit over the last few days, and Sayer actually asked me, what do we do when we give the low titer positive whole blood to a female of childbearing age? So that's all covered in the Whole Blood Academy. I'm not sure when the next one is, but whenever we have anyone interested, Goodlow, Escott, a lot of names we all know have been. Peter Antevi's team has been down there, so we're happy to do that.
And it's fascinating when you give the answer to that, because everybody's always been scared about it. But here's a person that people are going to get, are probably going to die. If they want to, you're actually saving them to have a baby, is what it comes down to, right? So, that's part of what you guys cover in that academy. It's really cool, and you give the data. It's compelling. So really good. All right. So let me move on to a couple other folks before the day ends. Anybody want to ask a question or pipe in further on anything at all?
Oh,
So,
I'd like to pipe in just for a second to Dr. Winkler and the others, you and the others on this, just for a 30-second, just to make you think.
Okay.
One of the things that we're working with within the emergency management people in the federal level is nuclear war medical response. And one of the things being considered now is to use the national cord blood repositories in order to address bone marrow depression issues with widespread radiation exposure. And because the United States has a very large cord blood depository, also China does, by the way. And it's just something I'd like for you to be thinking. We don't have to, I don't want to take any more time.
is this also a place where there'd be a repository for cytokines, or just a separate issue?
Okay. the Strategic National Stockpile has bought hundreds of millions of dollars of cytokines, okay? Not widely known, for the specific purpose of responding to a nuclear war response. But this would be in addition to that, because we don't have enough even for a small nuclear exchange.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Okay.
All right.
So just something to think about. I would be very interested in, and I'd be interested in working with you and publishing or whatever, but it's moving forward. Okay.
Yeah.
And, but we're a little nervous about it. And so I would appreciate some of you who are in this area and what you would think about it. So
good.
That's it. Yeah.
All right. Hey, Scott Gilmore over in St. Louis, anything to report? We haven't talked to you for a while, except that everything's rolling. I hope that Candace and I can get invitations out to people, but just have that week block, and we're going to be sending you over to the Meridian. Anything else you can think of, Scott, that that we need to give everybody heads up on?
Nothing right now, Paul. I'm sure as time progresses, Candace will be reaching out to us to get what we need for the CME and the reservations and everything.
Speaking of Candace, I want to make sure everybody knows the CME code for today, because we're dwindling in numbers here, was 15192, 15192, and was 15191 for the Florida grouping. Okay. Let's see, Rob Lowe, haven't heard from Columbus for a while, so tell us anything to report from there that we need to know about.
Fairly status quo. Our current big event about to kick off is our Arnold Sports Classic, which is sort of a unique event if you haven't seen it before. So that'll be interesting. That's the last big event that happened before the city does away with its mask mandate as well. So we'll see what happens next week.
All right. So we have our state EMS medical director from the state of Florida on, Angus Jamison. Angus, anything we need to know or anything you'd like to report on or anything follow up from last week? He's probably going back and forth too, as I think he warned us before. So Angus, if you're there and you can hear it, just wanted to see if you had anything to report. If not, then let me jump over to Ben Weston in Milwaukee, right? Anything of note to want to pitch in on?
Hey, thanks, Paul. No, nothing new this week, I don't think.
All right, then let's jump over to Carolina, our player from down in the Fort Myers and Cape Coral area. Anything to give us? Anything you want to tell us about, or or either today or tomorrow or some other time?
I don't have much in the way of updates today. I actually love the discussion about Ukraine, so that was really neat.
Good, so you enjoy yourself on this. Doug, if you're still on, you want to tell us about the NAMT issue and also anything report from either Pennsylvania or any other organization or associate like
yeah, I already weighed in on Pennsylvania on ambulance availability and medications. NAMT, I put a link in the chat. The NAMT's EMS on the Hill days has shifted to virtual, and it's going to be the first week of April. And anybody that's interested can follow that link and register. And the other thing that I want to say is I think it's
where's it going to be? Where's it going to be?
Oh, it's virtual.
Oh, it is virtual. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's usually on the Hill in DC, but the issues with getting into, they were willing to do it, but issues with getting into the Hill are terrible. People have to come to the door and meet you and escort you to the office of the person you're meeting with, and then they have to escort you back out. If you're going to see somebody else, you have to be re-escorted in. So they decided to go virtual. And then the only other thing I was going to say is that the EMS world is now recognizing the gem of Kasia Hampton, who has incredible knowledge out of her third now fellowship and all of her international connections and work. I was fortunate enough to get to work with her as a resident before she did her 3 fellowships. So Kasia, great to see you and very, very nice report.
Oh, good. All right. Well, thank you so much. Hey, Mike, anything to tell us about Canada? I think it's cooling off up there with your truckers.
They are. Yeah, I think a lot of the overseas issues have sort of dampened a little bit of that. It's still some things happening, but nothing else to update today, though. Yeah. Great discussion.
And there is a good unification, a sense of unification with Europe on this as far as the Canadian people across the board, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, good. Crawford, Philadelphia. Oh, anything else to report though, Mike? Anything else though?
Yeah,
Okay.
no other updates.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
Hey, we're Crawford. Thanks for hanging in here, buddy. How are you? Okay.
I'm good, thanks. Hi, everyone. Philadelphia seems to be the one spot in Pennsylvania that is experiencing medication shortages. I was communicating with Doug and others that we're having a hard time finding saline, a hard time finding lactate, lidocaine, amiodarone. And so we're going to come up with sort of a patchwork of dispensing of medication depending on whatever we can get. I don't know if it's simply, I don't think it's a vendor issue. I think it's probably a supply issue and just the quantities that we need to keep our big ship going. And that's pretty much it.
And I didn't out anybody, but when I said pockets, really the pocket has been around your area, Crawford. That's as far as across the state of hearing of shortages right now, it really has been that southeast corner.
I won't take it personally.
Yeah, it's all your fault, right?
Yeah, I'm used to it.
Hey, Crawford, like I just random question out of nowhere, but remember how you started this program where you've had the police, transporting a lot of the trauma victims?
I had nothing to do with that. I have nothing to do with that.
No, I know that, but I mean, have you guys had any data, or is it just is it just Wild West in a way?
No, there's been multiple publications over the years that have come out from that regarding that. Several from Penn, several from Temple. So it's. There's some evidence behind it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's that as everybody has said, it's a pedal to the metal usually is a good way of helping that. So yeah.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Let's see now. I'm trying to think who I haven't caught yet. Hey, John Kramer, I might as well just anything you want to pitch in or anything going on okay from your end? Any perspectives about today or anything to add in?
No, thanks, Paul. I'm good today. It's been a great session. Thanks.
All right, good. Okay, cool. I want to make sure that you're happy and all that. Paul Banerjee, anything from the Senators of Florida?
No, so far so good. I think we've basically overcome COVID with our crews. We have 0 out for now. Back to normal, thank God. And we're looking forward to seeing you in June.
Okay, good. Hey, Terry, just how's things in Tucson? And just anything new to report, or is they're all the same old there?
Nothing to report.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure. Good say hi though, right? Yes. Who was that?
I have a quick announcement, Peter. I have on the Florida webinar next week, I have Sergey Motov. He's from up in New York City. He's going to be talking about nebulized ketamine for pain in EMS next week. And then the week after that, whole blood talk from Meg Marino in New Orleans. And then the week after that, actually 2 weeks after that, I have a trauma surgeon from our hospital who was resistant to whole blood in the beginning, who's now going to be coming to talk about the benefits of whole blood. So again, I have CJ to thank for that. So a good lineup coming up in March.
Okay, good. And is that Drew you're talking about? Oh, good. Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
And then so we don't send this out regularly to the Eagles. Do you want to start sending out your seminar to the Eagles as well? I mean, is it going to overwhelm your? I don't know. You have teams.
No. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. I think Angus is on the call. Angus, is there a limit to the number of? Well, Angus is probably still in another meeting, but I don't think it's an issue there. I can ask him to find out. But we get about 40 people. On average, I think we have plenty.
All right, good. Okay, who have I missed? Anybody here? I'm looking at the list of remaining souls here. Thank you all. Roger, anything to report out of Maryland?
So thanks very much. Really quickly, because I know we're at the end. This is a fascinating session. Thank you so much for the international perspective. I don't have anything more to add on that. But today we have finished our 20-month study period of actually termination, COVID positivity rates in the termination of resuscitation population. So after the last case is like well over a month old, we had nothing but negative cases on the actual patients whose resuscitations were terminated in the field. So it looks like it's mirroring the easing up of the pandemic. And so this is something where we reported our interim data in a poster at NAMSP 22, but we're not even seeing COVID positivity in the TOR population anymore. thought that was
So
kind of
I'm,
interesting.
I'm presuming you decided to do if you pronounce people because you wanted to do a prospective study and find out who was positive, and so now you're you've gone finally into the negative realm. When did you peak? Was there a time when you peaked and saw a lot of cases, or?
So it's retrospective in terms of how we analyze the data. So the data is analyzed retrospectively, but our peaks in the TOR population did mirror to some degree all of the surges along the way. But the difference was, and this is what we reported in the poster, that the TOR population, overrepresented positive cases compared to the community at large. So there was an R number that showed correlation between the TOR population and the population at large.
That probably goes along
they
with
were
our study.
overrepresented. It didn't prove any causation, but it was kind of interesting. And now we're down to literally zero for a whole month.
Of course, our studies we did last year show that it just correlates with it. It tags along with it. I'm sure that's what you found. Okay.
Were you also swabbing your TOR patients? Because we weren't aware of anybody else doing that in the country.
No, we weren't doing the TORB. In fact, it was just the opposite. Nobody got tested. So what we were saying was we showed how cardiac arrest went up so much that you probably, like, in 1 month, we had 6,000 or 7,000 deaths across the United States in just our 50 cities. My point is that there were probably more deaths from COVID than are actually reported. And so that's great that you were doing that. So that'll be part of our next study, by the way. I'll be calling you. Well,
so a shout out to Ted Delbridge, who provided the lab for MIMS. He was instrumental.
Okay, good. I don't see anybody else on, unless there's anybody other comments. Anybody else wants to say anything before we get off? If not, and Eileen, if you're still on, would you mind giving maybe a state-of-the-art update on where we are? Are we over the pandemic? Where do you think we're going, kind of thing? Just next week, would that be okay?
Sure, I can do. Well, actually, next week I'll be in Pamplona.
Okay. Got it. All right. Are you chasing bullets? It's not that
I'm giving the keynote speech to an international conference, and my talk is on emerging viruses, emerging zoonotic viruses. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right.
But for right now, I can tell you what the attitude is. The attitude is this thing's endemic. We're going to have to learn to live with it. We need to have the maximum amount of personal immunity we can. I see Roger shaking his head. You know, we're there. That's where we are, right? That's where we are. Yeah. We have to deal with the reality of the situation. There was an article today about, it's a Biorex article about a mutated form of SARS-CoV-2 in white-tailed deer that might be able to come back to humans, right? I mean, this is just, it's something that we simply have to deal with. Eventually, I think all of us will be infected, but if you get infected and you have enough immunity, then it's not a big deal.
Yeah. So it's going to be kind of like influenza, maybe, right? And then we'll end up getting some boosters every year or something like that. You think possibly?
But I think, on the plus side, we've learned an awful lot. I mean, the massive effort that so many of us have done worldwide for 2.5 years, and what we've learned is invaluable, not just for SARS-CoV-2, but for all kinds of infections and all kinds of disease processes, right? It's just mind-boggling.
Even the public's a little bit better and understands about distancing and masking, and they at least, if for those who want to do masking, they're not as ostracized as they would have been in the past, right? So
right, exactly. There's a better international by individuals understanding of basic public health, and that's good. I mean, we can always look at the bright side of this thing. So I think that's where we are, and I think we may see more horrible moments, but I don't think we'll ever see the kind of reaction that we had early on in the pandemic to those peaks. In part because we can manage it better in hospitals and keeping people out of hospitals.
Hey, just between you and me, everybody else can listen in, but I just want to tell you. So I presented our data on the neutralizing antibodies. That you saw the abstract, right? So I gave the most up-to-date information when I had to do a recording for the conference, right? And Peter and I actually, we were going along here, and we told this to the group a couple weeks ago, but I don't think you were on, is that, our neutralizing antibodies are up there at 99%. Remember, mine was originally at 68% after 2 doses, right? And then it hit 99, it hit 99, it kept going at 120 days, 150 days. Well, at 180 days, all of a sudden it's a dip. Both Peter and I went down to like around 90%. I was at 92.7, he was like 89 point something or other. And so it was interesting. So we think it's going to start going down again, but not the steep curve that we had before. When by that time it was just, they weren't around anymore. So just, I mean, that's our backyard experiment. But I thought since you're on the paper, you ought to know.
Well, that's really interesting. And you're reminding me of what's happened with shingles, right? Because before there was a vaccine for varicella for children. We didn't really need shingles vaccines as adults because we were constantly exposed at such low levels that we were protected.
Yeah.
And I think this may happen with this virus too, that we'll have, unknown exposures just enough to keep our immunity high enough so that we don't get, in the hospital.
Yeah. All right. Hey, and then pretty soon I'm leaning on Nancy Klimas to get the sort of a part of the discussion done, or if you could get it done, I need to get that discussion done on the monoclonals. Okay. So, but I could call you later. I got to get going. Everybody's got to get going. And so if you're around, I'll be actually in Miami Friday night. So, but I got to make it out to LA in the meantime. Hey, Mark, are you on? Mark XD. Okay, everybody else, if you'd like to leave, please, but or you can stay. Okay. Hey, Mark, are you still there? Mark Eckstein. Oh, okay. Hey, Kasha, I hope you enjoyed it. Was it good for you?
Absolutely, it was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
We got good feedback about you, that kind of thing. So I'm glad to hear that. So it was nice to have you. So if you want to continue on with us, please let us know. Okay, it's always been very, very helpful, and I'm glad we got our liaison set up for April. Okay, so which is really good.
Absolutely. So, happy to be the Polish eagle.
Yeah.
There is an eagle in the Polish, national emblem. So.
What city are you out of originally? Are you out of one of the large cities? I can't remember. Krakow.
I was born in Wrocław. I lived in the northeast of Poland. But my daughter is a third-year medical student at the Jagiellonian University in Krakow. So.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Krakow. Okay, yeah, Caleb said. We'll just say that you're Krakow Eagle. Okay.
Perfect.
What's the population of Krakow?
Oh gosh, I would have to look that up. I don't know, but it's close to 1 million. Probably something like that. It's a big city.
Yeah, exactly right. All right. Well, I see Stefan. I was going to say thank you to him. Have you guys known each other, by the way? He's the medical director for Berlin. He's got the Foyer department. So,
Feuerwehr.
Yeah, Feuerwehr. He's the medical director for Feuerwehr. He's the I was going to say is the Notfall director, right? So, but anyways, I just wanted to let you know, even though he's up north, he might want to know that, especially when you go back to Germany. Okay, so it'd be kind of a good connection for you to. Okay,
absolutely.
So he's the medical director. He's our eagle. Okay.
I will reach out in German.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, with that, good Abend. Okay. So see you. Good Abend. Okay. So for you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Take care. And Mark, are you on by any chance? Eckstein? I saw him on the thing, but maybe he's doing something else. We'll see. All right. I'm getting off. I got to go places. Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Welcome back, my friends. The show that never ends next week.